So, wasn't there a was there a Green River serial killer?
Yes, there was actually.
Was, yes. I knew
Very
him somewhere.
interesting that you would
Or
know that.
Uncle Brian, as we used to call him. Yeah. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. My name's John. His name is Andy. I just got your message, baby. So sad to see you fade away. What in the world is this feeling? To catch a breath and leave me reeling. It'll get you in the end. It's God's revenge. More on that later. First, Andy, what have you got in store for myself and the good folks?
Well, I have a band named Green River. Have you ever heard of Green River?
Don't think so. Was there a Green River serial killer?
Yes, there was actually.
Was, yes. I knew
Very
him somewhere.
interesting that you would
Or
know that.
Uncle Brian, as we used to call him. Yeah.
Well, if you know anything about that serial killer and where he's from, that might give you an idea of where this band is also from. But the track by them, well, then it will remain a mystery until you return. But the track by them is called Unwind, that I'd like to have you give a listen to today. So please go off and do just that and come back and let me know what you've made of things.
Okay, will do. Really interesting. So you got this nice guitar starting, sort of very blues based. When that second guitar comes in, just the tone of it, I was almost expecting like Iggy Pop. It was very Stooges, Stooge like Stoogey, yeah, Stooge like. Um, yeah, it sounds really nice. And then the guy I've only got like two lines of him singing there. Ah, that was quite Captain Beefheart. So this is really interesting sounds I'm hearing. Um, hmm, let's just squeeze it back a little bit. It's like heavy, muddy waters. That was fucking ace. It sort of appeals to the kid in me still. So you got this thing that's sort of like he's going into this Captain Beefheart type and repeating. He's almost stuck in a sort of trance or a ceremony. He's like, I came. And he's going around, and then in comes comes jogging up. This guitar going, and then you get this high register vocal, which obviously speeded up. And the two overlap, like you've got those magic lantern things where you've got two images version to one. And then it's almost like the old sheds its skin to reveal this shining new thing. Which I guess is the reference at the start as to where some of this music's come from, perhaps. I'm supposed to just like that shit, I don't know. Perhaps there wasn't a lot of thought to it, but if there was. And it's out it pops, and you get this primal scream, really reminiscent of Mudhoney to me. It's like a sort of Mark Arm vocals, kind of. Yeah, this sounds very sort of, it sounds really young and fresh and energetic and really good. Yeah, I'm loving it.
Open mind, an open mind is a living man. So messy, future thoughts. How get you thinking anything I want? So messy, future thoughts. How get you thinking anything I want? Anything I want. Open mind, empty inside. You got nothing to hide. Got your whole world in the palm of my hands. This is
I know it's still going there, apologies, but just that little bit there as an example. This sounds so direct and fresh compared to, if you want to call this grunge or whatever you want to call it, but to what followed on in the mid-90s. It's just you can't even compare it. There's a genuine sort of exhilaration to listen to this, and if I'd have heard this, I may have heard this when I was like 20 or 19 or 18, I'd have lost my shit over this. I'd have absolutely loved this. Perhaps I did hear it then. I just don't know that I did. Various states of distress I was in back then. But yeah, it's just awesome, and you can hear the sort of roots from it. There's that punk to it. There's that sort of proto-punk coming back from like Stooges sound and stuff. There's a bit of metal in there as well, and blues, obviously. And then there's that sort of, I think which was made this key was that arty alternative indie sound, like from Sonic Youth and No Wave, that experimental with the nature of noise, particularly white noise, but distortion as well. That the Velvet Underground did as well, and it just makes it so exciting and interesting. And then fast forward a few years, and you get the tired old fuckers going on about their heroin addiction, which I just have no interest in at all. This is awesome. There you go. And he really, I wonder if this is from Seattle, because he does sound a lot like Mark Arm. It must have been mates with Mudhoney. Yeah, it's really cool. I love Mudhoney.
Understand, got your whole world in the palm of my hand. This is all you understand. This is all you can stand, baby. Poor feeble little mind.
Oh, that's awesome as well. I really enjoyed that. That last bit there where he's just riffing on anything I want. There was one bit he just sang it just like Iggy Pop. That sounded great. Um, yeah, I really, really enjoyed that. Lyrics, I'm not going to get them at all. It's all about like the intent, really, and the noise you create and the feeling that comes across from that noise. And that's what this is about. So he could be singing about anything, Unwind. Um, but yeah, really, really interesting. And again, this sounded decent, heavy. It had a sort of pop to it. What I mean by it, sort of just still, it was going along like almost like a jogging pace. Um, but actually, it wasn't like heavily, heavily distorted at all. It still sounded quite sort of heavy to the ears. Um, there's a lot of sort of punky, bluesy, proto punk sort of influence to this. I just really, really enjoyed the guitars, the overall sound, the attitude. Um, I'm figuring this is early grunge, so late 80s, Seattle. I really should have heard this because I was digesting a lot. It's sub pop, isn't it? Yeah, must be. Um, yeah, I need to find out more about this and how it all fits in. To do that, go back to the man with the plan. That's Andy.
All right, welcome back. So, what did you think of Unwind by Green River, John?
Interesting, very interesting. I kept getting this feeling, as Elmer Fudd would say, "Oh, there's something screwy going on here." But yeah, we'll start. Um, it starts with this guitar vamping some sort of nice bluesy riffs. Um, and then after about a dozen seconds, in comes the second guitar. And there's something about its tone. I was half expecting Iggy Pop to start wailing at any second. It really reminded me of the Stooges, just in tone. But we're getting this kind of like a heavy, a sort of hefty version of some sort of generic Muddy Waters sort of tune. It's really nice, really nice. About 30 seconds into it, in comes a singer, imploring the subject of this ditty to visit his dwellings. And there's a real strong reek of Captain Beefheart to this. The delivery, the innuendo, the breathing, the overall tone. I really like it. There's something he says something about time and unwind, which kind of makes sense. And then he almost goes into this sort of ritualistic fervor, repeating the part line "I can," um, and then it's joined, and it sounds like another part comes jogging up because the guitar's going, and we get this other version of "I Can," and it's almost like when that sort of magic lantern thing where you get the two images swinging around and turning into what combining into one. It's like some oral version of a voodoo ceremony, and the guitars and the vocals both twist on each other, and then it's almost like it sheds its skin, and out comes this shiny new version, pacier, with a higher register, and the vocals continue the chant of "I can," as if they're reveling in the possibilities of this new life, and then it sort of breaks with this Mudhoney style elemental scream. And we get more of this sort of, it has to be late 80s Seattle sub pop, Mark on like vocals. But it's more about the intent than the words for a first listen. I have got very little chance of making out what he's saying. I mean, you can argue about what this music is. Punk rock, alternative, early grunge. But it really is so different to what followed. I'm presuming I'm putting it at late 80s. Yeah, it's just I found it really genuinely at the time exhilarating to listen to, and I did this time for the first time as well. Because of the sort of fire to it and everything. And there's that influence as well, which is really important. I don't know what you call it. It's kind of Sonic Youth and No Wave and all the people who were experimenting and exploring sound and white noise and all the boundaries and the territories. And that's influenced in things like Mudhoney and stuff like that. And this sound here as well. But it's really interesting. And although they're trying to be really cool, there is kind of naivety to the sound as well, which I really like as well. Anyway, to be honest with you, I let the rest of the song kind of drift over me. I really enjoyed it. The bass was doing some great work. There's like a jogging energy to the track, which gives the room for the guitars to go batshit whenever they want, really. You get some like proto punk through the middle section that really sounds like he's going to do Stooges at any point. The guitars, all they have these classic noises. There's chug chugs and it almost sounds like skateboarders, the way they're doing their little tricks and the bit of big air and stuff like that. And there's the audio tropes, which that late 80s, early 90s, you'd hear so much that makes this such a welcoming listening to me. Anyway, it gets to this section where the riffs are punctuated by the vocalist doing the title Unwind. And he's doing it and he's singing it like it's been sung through a bamboo rice steamer. And I'm getting really strong Mark Arm vibes here. I think these guys have got something to do with Mudhoney, more than like Tad or the Melvins or whatever, but there's definitely something going on there. We get some more riffing where the singer repeats anything I want. And he does it in like, higher and low and pissing about, which again is great. And there's one line where he just sounds exactly like Iggy Pop, which is great. And the song then slowly fades out, like they were disappearing into a subway or an underpass or whatever you want to call it in your country. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. I thought it was fresh. No matter when it was recorded, it still sounds really fresh. Energy, whole fucking ball of fun. Yeah, I thought it was wonderful.
Awesome. I thought you would like this. And there are a bunch of little Easter eggs I was hoping you would pick out that I'm going to sort of reveal as I go over my notes here with you. But you picked up on a lot of key things. That is for sure. Yeah, Green River was an American rock band formed in Seattle, Washington in 1984.
Oh, wow.
Early. When you think about what came from this, and a little bit about what this came from. But yeah, considered one of the first, if not the first, grunge band. Green River is best known for being the precursor to multiple key early 90s rock bands, most notably your favorite Pearl Jam, but also Mudhoney, Mother Love Bone, Temple of the Dog, and Love Battery. So this is the first band that would then spawn all those other bands. In its first practice sessions in early '84, Green River's members were vocalist Mark Arm, guitarist Steve Turner, drummer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Guitarist
Ooh.
Alex Vinson, also known as Alex Shumway, and bassist Jeff Ament. Prior to joining Green River, they had played in a variety of rock, punk, and hardcore groups, often with overlapping lineups. Arm and Turner had played together in Mr. Ep and The Calculations and the Limp Richards. It's a great name, by the way, the Limp Richards. Determined to start a new band together, they first recruited Vincent, whom Turner had briefly played with in Splooey Numa as drummer, and then set about convincing Ament to join. And Ament agreed to join the new band due to Turner's persistence and his frustration with Deranged Diction, his band at the time. The first Green River rehearsal was at the Turner home on Mercer Island, and Stone Gossard, a high school friend of Turner and Vincent, joined as a second guitarist shortly thereafter. The idea of the name Green River came both from Arm and Turner independently. Arm has cited several possible inspirations: a local community college, the 1969 Creedence Clearwater song, but the most resonant association was with the Green River Killer, an infamous Washington state serial killer who was prominent in headlines at the time and who later confessed to murdering 71 people between 1982 and 1998. That is a scary run. Yeah. On June 23rd, 1984, Green River recorded their first demos at Reciprocal Recording. They were released on vinyl in 2016. By late 1984, the band was playing. So there's something you can keep your eye out for, by the way. By late 1984, the band was playing shows in and around Seattle, and the band began production in December of '84 on its first record, "Come On Down." By the time the band finished the record in mid '85, Turner had left the group, citing distaste with the rest of the band's heavy metal leanings. He was replaced by former Deranged Diction guitarist Bruce Fairweather. In late 1985, the band embarked on its first nationwide tour to promote "Come On Down." Release of the record was delayed, however, thus negating the purpose of the tour. From all accounts, the experience was less than positive, though it helped cement alliances with other emerging American indie rock bands. Among them was Sonic Youth, who later quoted the song "Come On Down" on its own composition, "Never Mind, What Was It Anyway?" So there you go. They're taking a little bit and paying homage, I would imagine. After the tour, "Come On Down" was finally released by the New York-based Homestead Records. The record was released to little fanfare and did not sell very well. However, it is often considered the first record to be released by a grunge band, as it predated both the Melvins' debut EP and the Deep Six compilation album, which is this infamous compilation album that featured a lot of the early bands that would be dubbed sort of the forefathers of the subgenre. In 1986, the band continued to play in and around the Pacific Northwest to steadily larger crowds, especially in the band's hometown of Seattle. Early in the year, the now legendary Deep Six compilation that we just spoke about was released on the local CZ Records label. Alongside 2 Green River songs, the compilation features the music of fellow Washington bands Malfunction, Melvins, Skinyard, Soundgarden, and the U-Men. Kathleen C. Fennessy of AllMusic stated that the compilation documents a formative period in Northwest rock history. In June of '86, the band began production on its second EP, "Dry as a Bone," with local producer Jack Endino. Green River chose to record "Dry as a Bone" for Bruce Pavitt's new label, Sub Pop. So you mentioned Sub Pop also in your review, and this is really one of the that helped kind of cement the foundation, if you will, that Sub Pop would then spend the next decades kind of, growing and becoming sort of this icon in the record industry, I would think. I mean, a lot of people signed to this label. So go on.
Yeah. Sorry. I mean, from a British point of view, Sub Pop was the home of grunge, and I believe they even created the phrase grunge. But yeah, that's where you would go and get all your good stuff from.
Yep.
And I do know, just harking back, that a lot of grunge bands, particularly Nirvana, but a lot of them cited Sonic Youth as like semi-inspiration, the way their sound went. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So here's sort of the contemporary to Sonic Youth in this regard, like how they would inspire and inform this new genre that would come up, and Sub Pop was integral to the whole operation.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Pavitt couldn't afford to release it until the following year. This is how early it was in Sub Pop. They weren't just flush with funds to get to do things. So, and as it happened with "Come On Down," the record was delayed. In the meantime, the band issued the one-off "Together We'll Never" single on the local Task Force Records label. "Dry as a Bone" was finally released through Sub Pop in July of '87, a full year after it was recorded. It was the new label's first non-compilation release. "Dry as a Bone" was promoted by Sub Pop as ultra-loose grunge that destroyed the morals of a generation. So this might be actually the first use of grunge to describe a band.
Yeah.
Also, again, how pioneering it is. This is the first band to have their own record, a full own record done on Sub Pop. Everything else leading up to this, as mentioned, was a compilation. So they really are the first in a lot of ways. Steve Huey over at All Music called it Green River's strongest individual release, perfecting their sleazy, raucous fusion of 70s hard rock and post-hardcore punk. Almost immediately following the release of Dry as a Bone, the group re-entered the studio to begin productions on its first full-length album, Rehab Doll. Band infighting, though, took center stage over the music. A stylistic division developed between Ament and Gossard, and on one side, and Arm on the other. Ament and Gossard wanted to pursue a major label deal, while Arm wanted to remain independent, viewing the duo as being too careerist. The infighting came to a head following an October '87 show in Los Angeles, California. Apparently, without informing the group, Ament had filled the show's guest list with major label representatives instead of the band's friends. Nonetheless, only 2 of the representatives appeared. On October 31st, '87, Ament, Gossard, and Fairweather stated their desire to quit the band, although the band members agreed to complete production of Rehab Doll during the next 3 months. Green River had, by late 1987, ceased as a band. Rehab Doll was released in June of '88. Ned Raggett of All Music called it a record that sounded caught somewhere between grunge mania and metalcore rock folly. A Green River reunion occurred on November 30th of '93 during a Pearl Jam concert in Las Vegas, Nevada. Participating in the reunion were Arm, Turner, Gossard, Ament, and Chuck Treese, who filled in on drums for Vincent, who at the time was living in Japan. The band performed the song Swallow My Pride and Ain't Nothing to Do before leaving the stage. Green River reunited for 4 shows in 2008, featuring all 6 of its members from the 1980s. The first show was a warm-up show on July 10th of 2008 at the Sunset Tavern in their hometown of Seattle. The band next played on July 13th, 2008 at Merrimore Park near Seattle to honor Sub Pop's 20th anniversary. Over at Pessimist is Never Disappointed, they revisited the band's works after Sub Pop reissued them in 2019 and wrote the following. There is no doubt that Green River were the first grunge band. Still, to say that this is not to offer up a revelation of any kind, but rather to remind again that what the term once meant. Listening to this band's earliest recordings, reissued last week courtesy of Sub Pop, is to dive again into a form that was, albeit briefly, something legitimately unseemly and dangerous. While it's well known that 2 of these guys, Steve Turner and Mark Arm, would later form Mudhoney, and another 2, Jeff Ament and Stone Gossard, would form Pearl Jam, the reality is that Green River were a pretty good act in their own right, as 1986's Dry as a Bone reveals. Expanded here considerably, the EP from the group sees Arm offer up Iggy Pop-inspired riff rockers like the spry Unwind and Together We'll Never, all no fun style menace done up in a Matsish form. The release itself is nearly essential, especially for fans of both Mudhoney and Pearl Jam, considering how far the music remains from the more recognizable sounds of these 2 groups. So it's kind of, I knew that you dug, I know you're very, very different scale for both those bands and where they fall on it. Nonetheless, I thought it'd be really cool and kind of important to show you what band birthed all these other projects, which is really crazy when you think about how many acts came from them, because it's not just them, it's Temple of the Dog and others, right? But over at Punk Rock News.org, they rated Dry as a Bone a 4.5 stars and wrote, in 1987, the band would release their second EP, Dry as a Bone, and while it didn't take the country by storm, it certainly took Seattle by storm. The band's combo of 70s hard rock and metal attitude and punk rock aggression came together perfectly here. They were every bit as angry as Black Flag's album, My War, but the songwriting fell into the vein of a traditional rock and roll. Green River was stylistically and literally the grunge band that birthed grunge. So let's get into these lyrics. Come on over to my place. I'll show you some time. Come on over to my place, baby. I want to watch you unwind. Come on over to my place so as I can, and then it repeats the I can several times. I can fuck your mind. And you're so right. Like it's almost like they took an old blues song and kind of vamped it up a little bit with the guitars and put their own kind of like at that time modern spin on an old blues classic. So that struck me the first time I heard this too. I was like, oh, this is so cool that on top of it being dripping with this 70s punk and post-hardcore sound, there's still this to the OG genre that birthed rock and roll, right? So that always, I love that so much. It's like a little history lesson or something in there, little morsel. Open mind, barely alive. An open mind is an empty mind. Sow my seeds, feed your thoughts. I'll get you thinking anything I want. Sow my seeds, feed your thoughts. I'll get you thinking anything I want. Anything. Open mind, empty inside. You've got nothing to hide. Got your whole world in the palm of my hand. That is all that you understand. Got your whole world in the palm of my hand. That is all that you understand. That is all you can stand, baby. Poor feeble little mind. Ow. Your blown mind ain't a pretty sight. Your poor mind makes me feel alive. An empty shell to play inside. That's right, baby. Open wide. Unwind, unwind, unwind. With that Iggy-esque belting out. Sow my seed, feed your thoughts. I'll get you thinking anything I want. Sow my seed, feed your thoughts. I'll get you anything I want. Anything. So yeah, there you have it, my friend. That is a glimpse into Green River, sort of the grandfather of the grunge movement over there in Seattle. Super tickled. This a rare opportunity for me to put a little glimpse and spotlight onto rock and roll history. Often, being the elder statesman of the two of us, you're doing that for me, especially as it relates to UK rock, which I am forever in debt and appreciative of. But this is a fun little turning of the tables for me here. And I'm really glad, God, it was, you can tell that you're a true fan of a lot of this early grunge stuff because you were picking out all of these things that were, to most people, they wouldn't, unless they really, really loved Mudhoney and the early move, the Melvins and all that stuff, they wouldn't have probably picked up on. And the Iggy Pop stuff, the sort of pre-grunge stuff that would inspire a next generation. You picked up on that as well. So really impressive stuff, John. And bottom line, but I'm just really glad you liked the song because it is an awesome song.
Right.
Definitely go check out these EPs that they've done. And maybe they're one full length. I know it probably didn't turn out the way they would have wanted it to because of the band friction. But it's still interesting and worth giving at least a listen to, seeking it out and popping it on.
Yeah, I mentioned actually in the reaction, just thinking back, there's a couple of points. It's really interesting the timeline in this because Superfuzz Big Muff's like 88, so they pretty much hopped from this into Mudhoney and off.
Yeah, right away. There wasn't a much of a dormancy between the dissolving of this band and what the other splinters of two would do with their acts. So
yeah, and it's funny you say about Steve Turner leaving because of their proclivity for heavy metal sound. I don't know if you've heard his country music albums, but they're really cool.
Oh no, I haven't. That's
awesome. His solo albums are. I really like them actually. But the other thing on the reaction I said was that if you actually listen to this, it does sound like it's got some heaviness to it, and and that sort of. But the guitars themselves aren't that distorted. They're not really compared to like later, if you add on another 5 years, So actually, it's a lot of it's to do with like just the way it's done and the attitude and everything. It gets across this heaviness without actually having all the distortion and all that sort of compression and everything.
And I think when you speak of the attitude, that's to me, musically there are definitely some similarities, but that's to me where you really see the Iggy Pop and the Stooges kind of influence and sort of that punk kind of attitude about it, but the music is just a little different. It's like looking at something through a different lens a little bit. It's just a little askew. But yeah, really cool shit.
Sorry, on just one other thing, just thought about it. It was interesting. I kind of knew a little bit that they had played in hardcore bands. And it's amazing how many bands in the 80s started as hardcore. It's like the American version of, British bands starting as punk and then going into something else.
Yeah.
That was like the entrance level, as it were, to get your band going. Like Beastie Boys were a hardcore band,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
It's just really interesting that they all start like that and then go off and do their thing, whatever way they choose to go. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Well, thank you so much, John, for giving this thing a listen. I'm tickled that you enjoyed it as much as you did. So that's a win-win, I think, for both of us here.
Definitely.
Guys out there in the listening audience, let us know if you're familiar with Green River. I'm sure a lot of you had heard of Mudhoney and Pearl Jam and so forth, but let us know if you were into Green River as well, what you thought of the song if you haven't heard it before. Be interested to hear what some of y'all have to say. So please drop a comment in the comments field below. Also, while we have your attention here, hopefully, like, share, and subscribe if you'd be so kind. It really does help us kind of, grow the channel here and bring in more voices and opinions and, more song suggestions for our Friday episodes. So thank you in advance for all of that. And hopefully John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next episode of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.